If you're watching this video, I sincerely thank you. My name is Rebecca Hunn. I am the District 7545 Membership Chair, and this is the second, or a recap of the second, because I forgot to hit record, the second training in a three-part series called New Ideas, New Formats, New Perspectives. The third will come to you in January, February, live, and also recorded, we hope. Once I named it and started working on it, I realized I need to put new perspectives first. You need to have the perspective where I'm coming from, where Rotary is coming from, before we get into some of these club models. This session is basically about what your Innovative Clubs Committee is doing. The Innovative Clubs Committee is new in our district. It was just created this spring, and I'll talk a little more about that initiative. I want to set the stage first. And I think most of you are well aware that I have not been a membership chair who pushes numbers, numbers, numbers. Sets a big goal. We need to pull in X number of people into our district this year. We've done that in the past. We've seen the futility of it. Even if we did it, we lost those people in large part. The big ups were always followed by downs. That's not the way to grow. And Rotary International certainly knows that. There have been fundamental changes ever since 2016. Those changes are continuing. So, what is the big picture? Well, let's just say this. This is the most telling figure. In the last 5 years, July 1, 2015 to June 30th, 2020, we lost a net of 175 people in our district. We brought in 1,313, we lost 1,488. Obviously, if you continue down that path, you eventually disappear. So, we've made a lot of changes. A lot of clubs in our district have made significant changes, the very changes Rotary International has been asking for. Different membership categories, more flexibility, more affordability. Many of our clubs have done that, many have not. So, we lost 175 people. Well, yeah, it kind of looks like it's not working, but we've stemmed the tide. The loss before that was more aggressive. There are many, many good things going on and many models that are proving successful. We need more of them, and we need new club models. And we'll talk about why. But in terms of setting the stage a little more, of those 170, well, really of the 1,488 people we lost, the net was 175. We lost 43% of them when they had been in our clubs 2 years or less. So that's an obvious indication that they're coming to the table, but they're not getting what they thought they would. And that's a broad statement. There are many reasons people don't stick with something, but all in all, we need to engage them better. So, I'm going to get into generational differences here, again, setting the stage, and I'm going to use the labels that sometimes I think go in one ear and out the other, but they are fitting, and that's how the research is lining up. So, our district is over 53% baby boomers. The 53% is 60 and up. Boomers start at about age 55, so it's actually higher than that. That means that in most clubs, baby boomers set the culture. There's nothing wrong with that. I am a boomer. I'm solidly a boomer. We've done some wonderful things. But here's the issue. Most of our recruitment is with Generation X. There are some major differences. And we're going to have to accommodate those differences in order to stop that outflow that we're seeing under 2 years, in order to get more people in, and in order to, in essence, let them have a crack at establishing some clubs that are more fitting to them. Now, sometimes we kind of get this tug of war or a competitive thought between traditional clubs and, oh, you're setting up other clubs. I hope that's not what's in your mind, because some of the new club models that we will set up will pull in people who probably would never have joined a traditional Rotary club. I'm going to put an option on the table today to greatly expand your club, but in fact, a couple of options. I'm hoping that you will also help us, your Innovative Clubs Committee. We need your thoughts, your ideas, your connections, and your energy. And I'm going to talk about that more. But, okay, Generation X. What is wrong with the traditional club that it is not terribly appealing to Gen X? Gen X is basically 40 to 55. And your first thought is, well, we have those people in our club. Yes, you do. And some of them it fits. You've probably asked a lot more to come visit you, and they haven't, because it doesn't fit. And you're probably losing a higher percentage than normal of that age group because it doesn't fit their needs. So what are their needs? Well, I'm going to talk about their realities. And the realities are this. Gen X is projected to be the very first generation that will retire with less security than the generation before it. Gen Xers, on average, have 9 jobs across their working lifespan. That's more than the boomers. And that will be typically across 4 career fields. They are retraining, re-educating for many of those changes. It's a hectic life. It doesn't have the financial security that the boomers had. Now, the millennials, who we really want, 25 to 39, really, I think I just have to say a couple things to tell that story. Their situation is much like Gen X, only increasingly so. If you look at the number of millennials who were living with their parents prior to COVID-19, I found several figures. They all seem to hover around 30%. That's 25 to 39-year-olds living with their parents. Think back. Boomers, not so much. And after COVID-19, those numbers are much, much higher. So we have people in situations that are different than ours. But here's the good thing. All of the research shows that both of those generations are passionate about causes, that they want to give back to their communities, both here and around the world, and that they crave personal interaction. Those are all categories that Rotary can fill beautifully. The changes we're talking about are really infrastructure changes. So what does a club need to look like in order to pull from those 2 categories? It needs to be more affordable. And really, for Rotary, that's pretty easy. The dues structure is not prohibitive. Typically, the cost comes from meals and our meeting locations. Well, you know, COVID has given us a wonderful new tool called Zoom, and it is very effective at eliminating those food costs, even in a traditional club, as long as you have a hybrid model. And many new clubs will probably not have that in-person meeting where you eat. We'll see, it's up to them. But costs can be eliminated pretty well. Flexibility. We've already seen tremendous flexibility in our district. And I'm not going to go into it in depth, but we have 2 clubs that I know of who meet in person, and that meeting has a web option as well, an online option. They meet once a month, and they do more projects. So we're already seeing that. We're not seeing enough flexibility in enough clubs. We need more. So it needs to be affordable. It needs to be flexible, purpose-driven. Both of those generations often have 1 or 2 issues, per se, that they're really focused on. It needs to be relevant. And I think in large part, that's probably projects as well, projects that are relative to the current need and personal. You know, from my perspective, the boomer perspective, we think, you know, those people always have a device in their hand. And quite honestly, at this point in life, I do too. We work via the web so much, even before COVID-19. And, you know, it's our social interaction in large part too. Maybe that's what drives their need, as well as ours, for personal interaction. We want to be with people. Now, again, we're sort of restricted at this point. That won't last forever. So that's setting the stage. And what do I want you to come away from this presentation with? Well, a better idea of what a Rotary Club can look like, and sometimes should. I want your creative energy. In order for the Innovative Clubs Committee to do what we want to do, and this is long-term, and nothing happens really quickly, we need to know who you know that has a passion in your community, that might start an issue-based club. And I'm going to talk more about that. We need to know what your ideas are for your club. We have a lot of help and support. And I hope that you will come away from this with a sense of not competition, but collaboration. There are so many things that can be shared between clubs that will reinvigorate everybody. I quite honestly have been in Rotary since 1996. I have never been this excited. The possibilities are endless. Now, in the original presentation on this subject, Terry Mathias would have told you about the Innovative Clubs Committee, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about that so you know where we came from and who's on it. But I will tell you that Terry started his piece of that presentation with a very impassioned plea that he had seen that morning on his own training from a former international Rotary president. And that plea was this: we need people. We need people because of what the pandemic has done to people all around our world. We are going to have more needs, more things that we need to do, maybe reassess what we are doing. It's going to be a very busy project world. People have more needs, and we know that just by looking at our own communities. So keep in mind, every person you add is manpower to do what needs to be done in a post-pandemic world, or even while it's going on. So how did we come about? Well, we are a creation of Rotary International. The Innovative Clubs Committee is actually a zone committee. And Terry Mathias of the Charleston Vandalia Club is the chair. Terry is a past district governor in 7550. We also have on that committee Dan McCarthy, who is our district governor nominee, and my hat's off to Dan because when you're in that governor chain, you are busy, busy, busy. But Dan is retired military at a very high level, and he has taken over the Veterans Clubs initiative. And I'll talk a little more about that. Dan presented on that session as well. Sherry Massinger, our immediate past district governor, is a member. Greg Cartwright from the Grafton Club, Tammy Lucas from the Princeton Club, and me as district membership chair. Now, Dan is focusing on veterans. Greg and Tammy are focused on alternate time clubs. If you've been in any of my former trainings, you've heard about that, but I will tell you again, because that's a wonderful way to increase your current membership, and maybe with a cause-related emphasis. I am really focused on satellite and cause-related clubs. Now, about this committee, we are a zone committee. We have a zone, I'm going to say training, but it's a training sharing once a month. There are 17 districts in our zone. They're represented on that Zoom call. We get all kinds of information. I developed a cause-based club printed piece that I shared on the last call, and that's being taken by one of their graphics people and put in a trifold brochure, which will make it a lot more usable. And then that will go to all 17 districts. We're sharing our stories, our successes, and our tools. So we have a lot of support at the zone level. And I think that's important for you to know. Any question, any thought you have, send it to us, because in all likelihood, we have an answer, some support material, something that will help you. So I'm going to talk first about Dan's initiative. And I would share the screen, except I get all confused and lose my train of thought. So I'm just simply going to tell you, veterans clubs, it's a cause-related club. And some cause-related clubs have popped up in other districts over the past couple of years. One of the most successful are veterans clubs. That is simply a club made up of veterans and people who are focused on veterans issues. And that's what the club works on, veterans issues. Do they meet, 4 times a month and have lunch or dinner? No, probably not. They may get together once a month on Zoom, maybe more often, and they simply work on projects that support veterans. Now, right now, Dan is working on finding the interested parties, and we don't know which way this will go. It may be regional. You may have 3 or 4 veterans clubs around the state, and they're regional, and maybe once in a while they do meet in person, or it may be one club statewide. That is yet to be determined. Anything I'm going to talk about on the Innovative Clubs Initiative is in process. So what do we want from you? We want interested parties, whether they're in your Rotary Club or out. And when I say interested parties in your Rotary Club, let me tell you about a club model. Now, this came from a social justice club that was set up in a North Carolina district. Now, I love the model, so I'm hoping that our cause-related clubs will take this one and run. They had 3 levels of membership. One were the people who are solely in their club. The next level was called affiliate. So I'm in Morgantown North. Let's say we get a social justice club established, and that is one I want to do. I can affiliate, which means I just have the right to go to their meetings if I want, tune in via Zoom, know what their projects are, take part when I can. I retain my membership in Morgantown North, but I'm an affiliate of this club. Now, they also had a friends and family kind of membership, not like the one that some of our clubs have, but let's say there is an eco club, an environmental club, and that's another area we're looking at. And there's a Sierra Club close by. The Sierra Club leadership may say, hey, we'd like to have a place at the table with you. There are a lot of, compatible things we're doing, maybe some collaborations. We want to keep up with what you're doing. So the structure, and understand this, is not dictated by Rotary, by the district. The structure typically comes from the club. What works for them? So there's some examples, but let me throw some ideas out here. And I'm going to talk about the one first that would most benefit, and sometimes quickly, the traditional clubs. And that is an alternate time group, not a club, but a group. Both Grafton and Princeton have this, and they've had it for a while. Basically, all you're doing is saying, hey, there are people in my community who cannot come to my meeting whenever it is. We're going to form a group that meets at some other time. Now, typically that's in the evening. And they are members of your club, but there is some autonomy, at least in the ones we've seen so far. They can have their own projects if they want. They can join the club in their projects. They typically can't go to the club's meeting, but often people from the mother club, we'll call it, can occasionally go to their meetings. They don't have a president, they have a chair, and that chair is typically on the board of the mother club. It is kind of an obvious, easy, good way to increase your club with people who are interested, but they just can't be there. I know Grafton focused on education because they're so active in the schools, but they have some other people as well. But that education model is a good one. You could very easily establish an alternate time group that had a project focus or a cause focus. If there's something that's going on in your community that is ongoing and you feel people are passionate about, you could do that. I want you to understand, because this is one of the hardest things to get across. Any model I give you is an example, because some of our best ideas probably haven't even been thought of yet. Every model I give you came from some Rotarian's head. So if you're thinking about something that, isn't on our radar yet, talk to us. Anything is possible. This is a very growing, active, evolving area of Rotary, the innovative clubs. Cause-based clubs. I've mentioned a couple. We'd love to have a social justice club. A peace club was just established in Virginia. And, we all know Rotary has, I think they're up to 7 peace centers now around the world. Rotary has an emphasis on peace. Not a bad design for a club. Got to have the right people. Again, it doesn't have to be totally local. It can be district-wide, because we now have online platforms that, we've pretty well learned how to use. So that's another area. The environment. There are environmental clubs cropping up. And of course, that's going to cover a wide area of topics. And you can have different ones for different environmental issues. We're trying to do an ag-based club. It may happen, may not. We're looking at niche producers. Then there are many in this state, and the Department of Ag is pushing this very hard. We're not a state where you can have one big crop. I think hay's our biggest crop. But we are a state where you can do a lot of niche production. We're looking at this because Rotarians typically feed people. We have a lot of feeding programs, food sustainability. And so it's an area we think can have wonderful ties with traditional clubs. Now think about this. From my perspective, for any cause-related club that is established, I am hoping they will have one or two people who will be speakers and can speak via Zoom or in person to our traditional clubs about what they're doing and why they're doing it. Because we need to know, this is a new model. This is something that I think many clubs will want to take part in, at least on a project basis. So we have a lot of collaborations that are possible. Now, I'm going to throw out another innovative club model here that I find very intriguing. And they're called passport clubs. I would show you the video, but it's kind of long. There is a former district governor in North Carolina, and this is just an example of one, but I want you to see the potential and the fact that it's probably not terribly hard to do. She decided that there was a lot of potential in terminated members. Why did they leave? Where did they go? They obviously had some interest in Rotary. So she started calling them, and she got a handful that said, yeah, I would be interested in what you're talking about. What she was talking about was a passport club. Now, I'm going to give you the model I know. Doesn't necessarily have to be the model. Most passport clubs meet once a month, and they don't have any projects. They take part in other clubs' projects. They kind of affiliate with other clubs, obviously, keep track of what they're up to, and maybe a couple of the passport members go to one club project on a Saturday and a couple more go to another one. They can go to their meetings. They can move around. They're simply kind of a support system for whatever clubs are in the area. Now, when she put her club together, they were meeting in a gas station bar. Little place along the road that sold gas, had a convenience store, and from the picture I saw, had 4 or 5 high-top tables. That's where they met. This doesn't have to be anything fancy. I can guarantee you, she didn't say, but the cost of belonging to that club was pretty minimal. They outgrew it, which is a very good thing, and moved elsewhere. I'm not sure where. But passport clubs are an interesting concept. Now, I think hers was maybe a little on the younger side. I know the initial makeup of that membership were terminated members. I will tell you that for whatever reason, those terminated members are worth a look. If you're in a club that has changed a lot, calling and chatting with your terminated members might make sense. Your club might fit them better. I was recently at a Bridgeport Rotary meeting, and they brought in 3 new members. 2 of them were former Bridgeport Rotarians, and 2 things had happened. Bridgeport Rotary has changed a lot, and both of these people said their lives had changed quite a bit. They were more able now to be active in a Rotary club than they were when they left. So just a heads up, those terminated members might be worth chatting with. But I have another idea for a passport club. I think it would be fairly easy to put one together with retirees who would like to go to other clubs' meetings, take part in their projects. It's more flexible. It is not as time demanding, and it gets people out and about. And, you know, we should never lose track of the social aspect of Rotary, the support system we are to each other. It's extremely important. It keeps a lot of people in Rotary. So there are literally clubs springing up that are based on friendship and simply being together. So what other kinds of clubs? Well, I will tell you that we are working on putting a satellite club together in western Monongalia County, Blacksville 100, that area. We are a very wide county east to west. There's a long distance there. That club will be under Morgantown Rotary. They have done a lot of work for a lot of years with the high school in that area. And that's a very cohesive community. There's a high school, junior high, and elementary school. That community is very supportive of those schools. So we think that's very doable. It is in process. Our district probably could come up with a couple of other clubs, either starting them as satellites. When you start a satellite, it is under an existing club. Now, you can set up a club if you have 20 members. You can charter a Rotary Club all on its own. This will be a satellite. You have to have 8 members to qualify as a satellite under an existing club. So when we get 8 members, we can charter it under Morgantown Rotary. And then when they grow to 20, if they grow to 20, and they may or may not, they can either go out on their own or not. They really don't have to. In some case, those collaborations, you know, with Morgantown Rotary already heavily involved in that community, that may never happen, and doesn't really matter. Either way works. Now, we don't have a Rotary Club in Philippi, West Virginia, in Barber County. Any club interested in potentially starting a satellite there, we'd love to hear your thoughts. We are really lacking any club between Clarksburg and Parkersburg out the Route 50 corridor. There are various places around the state that we could probably do a satellite. And again, a satellite, typically you have to have 8 members. They're going to start under another club. Hopefully grow. If they get to 20, they can charter. If they don't, they can, you know, if they're an active, functioning club, doesn't really matter. So that's another category that comes under innovative clubs. Rotaract comes under innovative clubs. And with COVID-19, Rotaract has certainly hit a bump in the road, but we'll get there. There are other schools and communities. We would like to have more community Rotaract clubs. The upper level age group was lifted on Rotaract. It up through, I think, October of last year. The minute you hit 31, you were out. That's not the case now. They simply define it as young adults. So community Rotaracts have become much more possible. Now, the problem right now with community Rotaracts or school Rotaracts is the pandemic. That's an age group that wants to see each other face to face. They want to socialize. It's very hard right now. So, you know, our expansion with Rotaract may be going slower than we'd like, but we will get that back. So those are the major categories of the innovative clubs. We are new. We came together in May. We've already made some rather significant progress on the alternate time groups. By the end of our Rotary year, June 30th, we would like to have 4 new ones in place. And we do have clubs giving it a very serious look. If any of you would like to take a look at that, please contact me. My email is hun3433@gmail.com. Again, it's hun3433@gmail.com. And really, questions about any of this, simply email me. I will, if I don't have the answer, I will get you to the right place. Another element that I am going to tell you is extremely important is media. I am not the person to teach it to you, but the clubs that I'm seeing really go forward, attracting people to whatever model, they are stepping up both their social media and their traditional media. It is incredibly important. If people don't know what we're doing, it's hard to get them in the club. And once you do that, you become much more of an attractant. It makes your recruitment so much easier. So with that, if you have any questions at all, again, contact me, hunrebecca3433@gmail.com. Please consider some of these concepts. We would love to hear who you know in your community that might be good at participating in and hopefully starting a cause-based club. And remember, a cause-based club can start as a satellite under your club. Think about it. I hope you'll come on board with the concepts, not competition, but collaboration. And thank you very much.